Alright guys, Paul back here again with another video. In this one we're going to be doing a detailed comparison between these two 2013 WWE Intercontinental replica belts. These are both Figures Inc. adult size replica belts. They both have the 5mm thick plates. The only difference between these two is this one on my left here has been fully re-leathered by myself, meaning the simulated leather strap has been replaced with a hand-tooled real leather strap made to match the belt used on TV. While this one here is as standard as it came from WWE Shop, or in this case WWE Euro Shop. So it still has the simulated leather strap, and basically we're just going to be doing a comparison. A lot of people ask to kind of see the differences between a real leather strap and then its similar simulated counterpart. So I'm going to go in depth on this. We're just going to look at the leather, quick look at the plates, and yeah, hopefully this is useful. So let's get started. Right, so we have both the belts here. As mentioned, the plates on these are identical. So this one is the simulated strap version. This is the real leather strap version. And we'll just take a look at these. You've all seen the plates before, so I'm quickly just going to go over those. You'll see how nice the details are on these. Obviously, there's a few scratches on these. They're 8-year-old plates, so it's kind of to be expected. But the detail on these is honestly amazing. This kind of came out around the time that WWE properly took a step up in their replicas. They'd released things like the spinner belts, the US spinner, the Andre belt. But right before this, they released the copper penny tag, which was a hugely impressive replica. The design was pretty crap, but the replica was really good. And then this came out, and since then they've pretty much put out quality replicas ever since. But yeah, looking at the plates, you know what the plates on this look like. They're really impressive looking replica plates. The newer versions and the network logo version of this belt does have kind of darker gold coloring on the plates, so those belts are a little bit different nowadays. This has probably what I would consider a more realistic shade of gold. The newer replicas it's very yellow, the shade of gold, whereas this was a little more pale, a little more natural of a gold color. But to be honest, they're both fantastic. So we'll talk about the strap then, the main point of this video. So I'll do a comparison. As you know, both of these are white IC replica straps. So the one on top is the simulated strap, of course. This one is the real leather strap. And I mean, hopefully you can tell the difference there. They are the same width, I should mention. I don't know if it's looking different on camera. It shouldn't do, but there we go. So obviously on the real leather strap, we have my signature on the tip there, crafted by Paulmartin. That's just to certify it's a strap done by myself. And this does follow the traditional Reggie Park style tooling. So we have the 2x8 snap set here, gold snaps, similar on the replica belt there. You can see it does have the tooling imitation detail stamped in. Of course, it does have the stitching around the border, which modern replicas don't have. I've never been a fan of that stitching, especially on a kind of coloured strap. Anything that's not black, you can always see the stitching a lot more obviously, especially on these white straps, and it looks ugly. I don't know what else there is to really say. The stitching kind of just looks ugly. It's not a huge deal to get obsessed about or anything, but with or without it, it's obviously better without. So you can really see the depth of the tooling hopefully there, and the depth of the beveling comes out really nicely. And on this one, obviously it's just stamped in by machine on the simulated straps, so there isn't much detail. Of course, this does have the WWE logo on the simulated strap. We obviously don't include that on ours for copyright purposes. For some reason, this section here between the outer side plate and the male snap box is often one of my favourite parts of a Midwest style re-leather. I just like the way the beveling kind of looks there personally, and you can see just the difference there. This strap is also starting to bubble up. One of the issues with simulated leather straps is, of course, because they're simulated, there's compressed cardboard, compressed foam inside them, and it's all just glued together. Eventually, over time, the glue will separate. If you haven't seen my video where I cut open several simulated leather straps, check it out. I'll leave it in the description box below. In that, we go through a bunch of different years of straps, and I essentially show you what's inside of these, and it kind of explains why these simulated leather straps aren't too great. But for what it is, I can't complain. For a replica, a simulated leather strap, it's okay. Just the detail's a lot more lacking, but you're never going to get a fair comparison between this and real leather. So of course this does feature the camouflage style tooling design, but obviously on the real leather it's a lot more deep a tooling, and it does have angles to it, and it does have bevels to it, which hopefully you can see there. Came out really nicely. One thing you might notice is the cut around the center plate on the real leather version is slightly different to that of the simulated belt. On my re-leathers, unless someone requests otherwise, I tend to do the version that was most used on TV, which is this style of cut, which has kind of the more pointed outline to the plates, and you'll see up the top it's a bit sharper here, whereas the replica strap as standard is a little bit smoother. Both of these styles kind of were used on TV, but this was by far the longer used version, and through years of doing this, this has been the most popular style that most people request. So as standard, I tend to do it like this. There was some different versions. The old Shawn Michaels blue version had a kind of rounded cut at the top of the IC, or was that the white version that he had? I can't quite remember, but his one definitely, I remember the promo photo of the rounded top on his one. But yeah, let me know, what kind of cut do you prefer? Personally, I do prefer the sharper points to it, but I know that's not to everyone's liking. It does come out really nicely there. So moving further along, exact same style of tooling, so there's nothing really to go over around here, but one of my favourite parts as well is logo plate tooling. As you'll see here, a little bit dirt always will show up on white belts, but you can see on the replica strap it does have the logo plate tooling design around the 6th plate. Unfortunately, it is a little bit off centered there. You can see the kind of part there of the logo plate design is kind of showing off underneath it, whereas I try to line this up perfectly on my versions, which I think came out really quite nicely, to be honest. You can see the depth of the tooling there. And of course we have the 2x5 female snap box here, both of them pretty similar. Again, that Midwest style tooling design. I must say I do love kind of the depth you can see on the real leather. It is a big improvement versus the machine stamping here, which for what it is, like I keep mentioning, it is okay, but you can't really compare the two. Okay, we'll take a look at the back of these belts. So I'll just right onto the back of these belts, and obviously you can see on the simulated strap we obviously have all the screws still exposed. This came as standard from WWE, so it does still have the WWE licensing patch there. Of course, all the screws, all the snaps exposed. The snaps, including the male side, are exposed on this, whereas on the real leather version we do cover up the male side as well with that nice leather backing, which does cover up all the screws as well, and just the female snaps are left exposed so it can be fastened together. So but personally, I always love having the screws covered up on belts. I think it makes it kind of a more complete and more solid belt, in my opinion. There's nothing wrong with having the screws exposed. Obviously our standout straps do leave screws exposed, but for that kind of TV accurate feel, having those screws covered is a big improvement, in my opinion. Right, I think that's all there was to talk about this belt. I hope this was useful, because I've had quite a lot of inquiries in the past asking me to directly compare a simulated leather strap to a real leather strap, so I hope this was obvious enough about the differences. Obviously, the comparison is one-sided. The real leather is always going to win, as long as it's a good quality real leather strap. But yeah, I hope it was useful, I hope it was informative. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. That being said, if you enjoyed the video, like the video, that would be useful, I'd appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel, because I got a lot of videos coming up, so I appreciate it. Cheers.
Yo, monkeys, it's me, DDP. And if you want to get one of the greatest belts made for you, go to Paulmartinbelts. That's right, sucker.